In this video, we're going to learn how to record simple macros and assign them to buttons. If you'd like to follow along, open the macros.xls workbook from my courses and click on the cover page worksheet tab. So, first of all, a macro is just a command that you can give to Excel where it will execute several steps in a row. So instead of repeating the same 10 steps over and over and over again, you can record them and then tell Excel to execute those steps. In this example, I have downloaded the income statement, the balance sheet, and the cash flow statement from Walmart, and I've added a cover page, but we're going to assume that your boss doesn't really know Excel very well and doesn't know to click on the worksheet tabs, so we're going to insert buttons on the cover page that will take your boss directly to the income statement, directly to the balance sheet, and directly to the cash flow statement. So what we're going to do is we're going to record 4 very simple macros. In order to record a macro, the first step is you must see the Developer tab in Excel. If you do not see the Developer tab, generally the default is not to show the Developer tab. So if you do not see that Developer tab, you have to click File and then Options all the way at the bottom. You're going to click Customize Ribbon on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, you're going to see all of your main tabs. Now you're going to scroll down until you see Developer, and you're going to make sure that Developer is in fact checked. As long as that Developer tab is checked, click OK, and you should see that Developer tab come up. I'm going to close my solver, because we're not going to be using the solver right now. Okay, so the first macro that we're going to record is to go to the income statement. So we're going to record a macro where we're going to click on the income statement tab and then click on cell A1 on the income statement tab. So I'm going to click back on the cover page. Now be very careful. Once you start recording a macro, it's going to record everything you do. So if I start recording and then I go, oh gee, what am I supposed to click on? Developer, add-ins, page layout, formulas? The macro is going to record every single thing that you do. So make sure before you click record that you know exactly what you're going to do. So I'm on my cover page. I'm going to click my Developer tab, and all the way on the left hand side I have a code group and I have a button for Record Macro. So I'm going to click that button, Record Macro. So first it's going to ask for a macro name. You cannot use spaces in your macro name, so I will call this one income underscore statement. Now you can assign a macro to a shortcut key. So I could do, let's say Control A would take me to the income statement, but we're not going to do that in this case. You can store the macro in this workbook, or you could have your own personal macro workbook, but we're going to store the macro in this workbook. It's not a bad idea to type in a description. This macro takes you to the income statement, but we're not going to do that right here to save time. Now remember, once I click OK, I'm in record mode, so don't start clicking around. Once you click OK, you have to know exactly what you're going to do. So I'm going to click OK. Now I'm in record mode. I'm going to click the income statement tab. Then I'm going to click cell A1 on the income statement tab, and then I am going to click stop recording. Okay, it doesn't really look like I've done very much yet, but we will get there in a moment. Now let's record our other 3 macros. one to take us to the balance sheet, one to take us to the cash flow statement, and one to take us to the cover page. So I'm going to click back on my cover page, although it's really not necessary, making sure that I'm still on the Developer tab. I'm going to click Record Macro. This one I'm going to call Balance _ Sheet. I'm not going to assign it to a shortcut key. I'm going to accept the default for this workbook. I'm not going to give it a description, but it's not a bad idea to do this. So remember, I can't stress this enough. Once I click OK, it's going to start recording every single thing I do. So I click OK. Now I'm going to click on the Balance Sheet tab, and I'm going to click on cell A1 on the Balance Sheet tab. Then, making sure that I'm on the Developer tab, I'm going to click Stop Recording in the code group. Just 2 more to record. So I'm going to click on the cover page, making sure that I'm on the Developer tab, Record Macro. This one I will call Cash _ Flow. Once again, I'm not going to assign it to a shortcut key, accept the default for this workbook, and click OK. Now I will just click on the Cash Flow tab, and then click cell A1 in the Cash Flow tab, making sure that I'm on the Developer tab. Just click Stop Recording. The final macro that I'm going to do is for the cover page. So for the last time, I'm going to click Record Macro. This one I will call Cover _ Page. Once again, accept all the defaults and click OK. And this time I will click on the Cover Page tab and click cell A1, making sure that I'm on the Developer tab. Click Stop Recording. Now we get to do the fun things with the macros. We can run the macros just by bringing up the macros, clicking the Macros button here. So making sure that I'm on the Developer tab, I can click the macros, and I can see all of my macros. I can choose one, and I can click Run, and we can see it running. But that's not going to help your boss. So now we're going to assign those macros to buttons. So I'm going to click that cover page, make sure that I'm on the Developer tab. In the Controls group, I'm going to click the Insert. So I'm going to click the little arrow under Insert, and I'm going to click the first one under Form Controls, which is a button. So I'm just going to click Button, and then I'm just going to drag it out. Don't worry about the size and placement. They can always be changed later. Okay, so now it's going to ask which macro that I would like to assign to this button. So for this first one, we're going to assign this macro to the income statement. So I'm just going to single click Income Statement, and then click OK. And I have my button 1. As long as I have the handles around it, I can click where it says button 1, and I can try to select the text. It's not always very easy, or even just backspace, and I will call this Go to Income Statement, if I can type. Now I'm going to click Away. Now once I click Away, if the handles are active, so I'm going to right click over this, if the handles are active, it doesn't do anything. But if I click Away and the handles go away, if I click the button, I have now gone to the income statement page. So I'm going to click back to the cover page. We'll add our 2 more buttons, one for the balance sheet and one to the cash flow statement, and then we can add buttons on each one of these tabs to bring us back to the cover page. So if you remember to assign the macro, making sure that first I'm on the cover page tab, making sure that I'm on the developer tab. In the controls group, I'm going to click the down arrow under insert, and I'm going to choose the first one under form controls, button. And then I'm just going to drag my button out. I'm going to try to make it around the same size, but again, remember, it can always be moved or edited later. This one is going to take me to the balance sheet, so I'm just going to single click balance sheet and then click OK. And I'm going to click where it says button 2 and just hit delete and type go to balance sheet. And once again, nothing works when the handles are around the button, but if I click away, we can see when we click the button, I've actually been brought to Walmart's balance sheet. I'm going to click back on the cover page. One final button here, so making sure that I'm on the developer tab. Insert. Under form controls, I'm going to click the first one, button. Draw that one out. This one is going to go to the cash flow, so I'm going to single click cash flow and click OK. Click where it says button 3. I'm going to hit my delete key and type go to cash flow. Now we can see here that when I click the go to, as long as I click away, when I click the go to income statement button, I'm taken to Walmart's income statement. Click back on the cover page. When I click the button go to balance sheet, I'm taken to Walmart's balance sheet. And then when I click go to cash flow, I'm taken to Walmart's cash flow statement. So the last thing that we would want to do is add buttons on the income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statement to take us back to the cover page. So I'm going to click income statement, developer tab, insert, first one, button, draw my button out. This time I will choose my cover page macro and click OK. Click where it says button 1, delete, go to cover page and click away. And once again, notice now with my income statement, I can click go to cover page, and now I can navigate very easily. I'm going to click on my balance sheet tab, do the same thing, developer, insert, button, draw it out, choose cover page so I can choose a button, several buttons that use the same macro. I'm going to click OK, and once again click where it says button 1, hit my delete key, go to cover page and click away. And finally, on my cash flow statement, do exactly the same thing. Developer tab, insert, button, draw it out, choose the cover page macro, click OK, and edit button 1 to read go to cover page. So we have now built a nice little worksheet where if I'm on the cover page, I can just click a button to go to the income statement, and on the income statement I can click a button to go back to the cover page. I can go to the balance sheet and go back to the cover page, and go to the cash flow statement and go back to the cover page. The last thing that we have to learn is if I just click save, this will not work because any workbook with macros has to be saved as a macro-enabled workbook. So in order to make these macros work, I have to click File and then Save As. The name is fine. I don't have to change the name. I can if I want to, but what's very important is down here where it says Excel Workbook, I have to change it to Excel Macro Enabled Workbook .xlsm, and that way when someone else tries to use the macros, they will actually work. So I click Save, and I hope you enjoyed creating macros and assigning them to buttons.